this graphic in the middle of the screen. Can you see it okay?
Yes,
okay, many of
absolutely.
you can. At the bottom, it's because of the colors, it's a little hard to read, but I'm going to read you the major word that identifies each of these levels of what is presented here as brand authority. Competent is number 7. Excellent is number 6 at the bottom. Expert is number 5. Leading authority, number 4. Number 3 is celebrity, and then star and superstar, numbers 2 and 1. So every person, if they're going pro, if they've decided to get real and serious and really committed to their path, whether they're building a franchise for Subway sandwiches, or they're opening a plumbing company, or they're a personal consultant, or they're doing Tupperware parties, or they're building a trucking company that's going to serve the entire continent, whatever it is, every person has the opportunity to choose what level they aspire to. Now, it's perfectly okay to simply aspire to becoming competent. When it comes to guitar, which is my side gig, I can play guitar. I can play guitar pretty well. I'm not excellent, but I'm competent. And I have fun performing for pay at nightclubs and small events and large events, where I involve this into a speech or a keynote I'm doing. So I've done a lot. I've done hundreds and hundreds of musical performances, but I'm not excellent. In any field, if you choose to be competent, that means you've got to do your homework, you've got to do the practice, you've got to acquire the basic skills to be able to sit at the big kids' table. And if so, you don't have to aspire further. You just have to be a player, so to speak, in the game, whatever that game is. If you aspire to more than that, you want to be excellent, then that means you've got to be so good at whatever it is that occasionally others go, wow, that was good. Well, that takes a whole lot more commitment. The next level beyond that is expert. And if you aspire to expert, that means you're going to, for a long period of time, do a great deal of extra study and practice and research so that you become sort of the go-to person when a problem comes up or a question arises. They say, oh, I want to go talk to her, right? So expert requires even more commitment. Leading authority is the level that I aspired to for my speaking and training career. And I wasn't interested in being a celebrity, though in China I was treated as probably a star, even more than a celebrity. But that wasn't important to me. But being a leading authority, being one of the people who's often quoted, being one of those that they say, well, what's Jim doing? That was important to me because I wanted to grow up to be like Earl Nightingale, who was my, motivational hero at the time. And there's a lot to that story. So it worked, but it took me a long time and a lot of commitment, and it paid off nicely. In 1972, I heard Earl Nightingale on the radio. In 1974, I started selling his training materials door to door in Arkansas. And in 1984, after I had moved to California and I was a full-time speaker and author, I got a call one day out of the blue, and it was Earl Nightingale himself calling me. And he said, I read an article of yours that I think would make a good audio training program. And in 1984 and 85, Earl Nightingale sold $3.5 million worth of my audio program, Relationship Strategies for Dealing with the Differences in People, co-authored with Dr. Tony Alessandro. Thank you, Heather. The thing is, going pro, first step, you've got to choose your level. If it's superstar, if you want to be like Taylor Swift in her niche, then it's going to take everything you have and everything you are for as long as you can do it. Because superstar requires all in. You can't have a side gig. You are all in Everything is about that. And if that's important to you, go for it because it's possible. But it just requires a huge commitment. Star requires a major commitment, but not as big as superstar. Celebrity, you can do something that I've had the privilege of doing, and that is to be at the events in your industry, to be who's who. But when you go out to dinner at a local restaurant, you're who's she. You know, who's who and who's she. There's a big gap between those two. And when you go for star or superstar, you don't get the time and the privilege of going somewhere and not being noticed very often. You're always on. And I've had the privilege of having a personal life that's just personal and not having my professional life interfere with that. But at the same time, I get the privilege of being highly recognized in my niche. So people say, Jim, you're such a big deal. Yeah, in a very narrow column, a silo or a niche. Yes, I'm occasionally considered to be a big deal. But in the broader world, I'm just another guy, right? And I get that. So I'm not full of myself and all thinking that I'm a big deal. When people say, well, what's the payoff of going pro, the program? Clarity. That's absolutely number one, which is what you were talking about, Linda. Clarity. What do you want to specialize in? And that requires answering a lot of other questions. So I walk people through a process. I say, all right, if you want to go to X level, leading authority, celebrity, whatever it happens to be, then let's look at where your opportunity is. Because first off, you got to see where it's going to pay off the most with the least amount of effort and the least necessary extra resources and that sort of thing. And if that doesn't appeal to you, you say, okay, that's nice. And I get it that that's an opportunity, but that's not what I really want. So the next question is, what really matters to you? And you look over your life and you look at your heart and your soul, and you look at the things that tick you off in the world and the things you're thrilled about in the world, and you focus to get the clarity that tells you what matters to you. Because once you really, really know what matters to you, then all the other questions just sort of evolve naturally. And you can say, okay, that's the next step for me. And so I lead people through this process of choose your level of aspiration to see how big the job's going to be. And then figure out where the best opportunities are for you, not for me, but for you in your niche, in your industry, in your field, and what you care about. And then look at what resonates most profoundly with you so that you get to do what you love, what you treasure, what you could talk about all day long as a living, right? And then we look at leverage points. How do you get that to pay off? What are the many, many ways that could produce revenue, produce progress, make a difference, make an imprint, save lives, whatever it is that you're committed to, right? And so I become a personal guide and a shoulder to lean on and an expert like a golf pro, going with you as you play the course, giving you tips and pointers and feedback from time to time. And I become the one person that for sure is always going to tell you the truth. Because one of the questions I ask people is, how many people in your life right now can you depend they will always tell you the truth? Now, when I say the truth, I don't mean always say, hey, you don't look good today. Because in their estimation, you might not look good today, but that's just being mean. That's just rude. Telling the truth is not telling everything you know. It's just telling what needs to be told at the time under the circumstances to the people involved, right? So if I'm asking somebody for feedback, hey, how did I handle that situation? I don't want to be made to feel good. Oh, Jim, you were great. No, that was what. No, I want somebody who I can depend on to give me the feedback that helps me get better. Tell me the truth. Tell me what I did well so I can feel good about that and I can reinforce it and do it again. But tell me what didn't work so well without blame or judgment or you're cooler than me or whatever, or there you go again, you loser scum. Get that out of your head and heart and just tell me what I need to know so that I can be better at living my life in a way that makes the world a better place because I'm in it. That's the big thing, right? So when I'm walking people through this, I do this, by the way, over an 8-week period where for 2 months plus, actually, we meet weekly in a 90-minute Zoom call, and then we all get together here in Austin, Texas, for a couple of days and get face to face and really go deep on this. But I tell people, look, what we're going to do after we establish these first few things is we're going to look at every major aspect of what you do. And we're going to pose the following questions. How can you become more valuable to the people who are receiving what you're giving or who are paying for what you're providing, right? How can you make it more valuable to the recipient? So we look at all the things like that on how to increase your worth in the overall scheme. And then how can you become more intentional about every nano bit of it? For example, professional performers, when they are on stage, where they're standing when the show opens is intentional. The first thing out of their mouth is intentional. When they move and work this side of the audience, it's intentional. So the high-level pros, all of that is orchestrated. And the key to success with it is to do it so well and make it so natural and honest to you that it doesn't feel orchestrated at all. I mean, an example I can think of is the early performances of Shania Twain, I thought were unstoppably, irresistibly powerful. And there was an arc in her career where she got to a point where it was all so programmed that when you saw it, you thought, boy, the music was great. Yeah, she's still pretty. She nailed every mark, every move, every moment, but it just didn't feel like Shania was in there today, right? And then since then, she's transitioned back to where, her heart and soul is felt once again in her performances. But there are a lot of performers that in business as well as on stage that just get into the routine and they're doing the drill. Now, make it intentional, but make it real, for heaven's sakes. So be more valuable, be more intentional, be more disciplined in your own life about what you get yourself to do when you don't feel like doing it yet. Because that's the key to discipline, is be able to get yourself to do what needs to be done when it needs to be done, and do it well, even when you don't feel like doing it yet. Okay. VID, valuable, intentional, discipline. A, accountable. Keep the numbers and be open about things. Make it obvious whether you're getting ahead or not getting ahead. Just tell yourself the truth, and those that you work with, tell the truth all the time. Make the truth a requirement, and honor it above all the other things that could have been there in the place of the truth. Just agree with your team. Hey, I don't need you folks to make me feel good. I'll find ways to do that. I need you to make me better. And I want to help you in the same way. So let's just all agree we're going to tell the truth all the time. So it's VIDA. A is accountable, tell the truth, and H, honorable. Do it with dignity. Do it with respect and admiration for other people. Like in 2019, I went to I did a academy program in Penang, Malaysia. And that evening, my students and I, and these are all Chinese students at the time, we went to a fishing village and we were going to have dinner there, but we walked through the whole tourist trap part of the fishing village with all the shops and the beggars and everything. And there was a guy sitting on the ground with an artificial leg, wearing tattered sweatpants and a dirty t-shirt. And he was playing an old beat up guitar. And as we walked by, it was doing this for tips, obviously. And as we walked by, I put some money in his hat. And then I realized he can speak English because he was singing a song in English. And I said, "You speak English?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Do you know any American songs?" And the people that were with me, they're thinking, "Oh, teacher is talking to an unclean man." You know, they're all just aghast that I would stoop to talk to somebody that's not clean, that's not of the same caste, as they would say in India. And so I'm talking with this guy, and he said, "Well, I know Hotel California." And I said, "Cool. Can I sing it with you?" He said, "Sure." Nobody ever asked him that. So I sat down cross-legged in the dirt right next to him. In the dirt. My team is going, "No, no." And I said, back home, I play and sing also. And he said, "Well, do you want to play it?" And I said, "Sure." So he handed me his guitar. So I grabbed his guitar. He's thumbing through his papers to find the handwritten lyrics. He finds them, and we start doing Hotel California. So I'm just. And when I started singing, he's singing harmony. Hello. And it sounded good. And more people started gathering around, and more people started throwing money in his hat. And he and I just had a cool moment sharing a musical piece. And then I hugged him, which everybody, "Oh my God, no, teacher, you mustn't do that." Anyway, I hugged him and then put my arm around his shoulder, and we posed for selfies. That seemed natural to me, but they were all just shocked. So Kitty said to me, "Jim, why did you do that with this unclean man?" I said, "Kitty, I didn't do that just to play music. I didn't do that to give him money or get him tips. I did that because he deserved to have a moment where nobody was thinking of him as being less than them, where he had a moment of dignity, where he was able to just enjoy being a human being along with other people without any thought whatsoever to societal strata or judgment or anything." And I said, "What do you bet he will remember that for a while?" She said, "He'll remember that for the rest of his life." I said, "So will I." Oh. See, if we do what we do with honor for the people we do it with, and we live our life according to that same valuable, intentional, disciplined, accountable, honorable mantra, everything we touch gets better, and other lives are imprinted by our presence. So we are, every one of you are, able to make a profound difference in the world just by doing simple things that require no extra training, no special education, no particular talent. And you don't even have to go create opportunities. You just notice them as you stumble across them every day anyhow.
That's beautiful, Jim.